computer. You might have to look on a separate personal device. Anyway, welcome. So happy New Year, and we'll start. And it's really great to have you all here. At this point, we have 95 on the Zoom call. I have 145 signed up, so I'm really pleased to have such a large group, but a large group does present some challenges as well. So going to ask you to be on mute while I'm presenting. I'll ask for a couple of times where, you can either speak up or use the chat feature. I've got a lot of material to present, especially in the first couple of classes. If you've taken a class with me before, some of this will be a repeat and a refresher, and that, hopefully that's helpful. But I've added some new things in as well. And of course, we're going to do a meditation somewhere in the middle of the class. We'll do a couple of things actually with some, practices that are experiential. So as you can see, the title, Simple Awareness, Switching from Autopilot to the Present Moment. And as they say, if you're, in Las Vegas or something, you must be present to win. So it's really all about that. It's really all about increasing and being aware of what's going on. So, but let me just start with this. I came across this image, and just as a way to say Happy New Year. And, I'd said in the welcome email that I'm looking forward to doing this with you all. I'm looking forward to the new year. But part of what we'll learn is to stay in the present as we look forward. So that's kind of the first lesson. To see if you can notice looking forward in the new year to all our hopes and dreams and, all the good stuff, as well as the fears that we have, the uncertainty that's part of what's going on in our world, right? And we try to do that in mindfulness without getting carried away or swept away about those stories or those hopes or, the things that have yet to come. So the way we do that is we try to notice what we hope for. We try to notice those things in the present moment. We try to notice our thoughts, our feelings, and our body sensations in the present moment. So that's really the first lesson. But moving to this, we're going to do a lot of pauses. Each class will begin with a 2 or 3 minute pause. And I am going to try to start these on time. I'm also going to try to get you out a few minutes early. Like instead of having a full 60-minute class, I'm going to try to finish by 12:50 or 12:55. I'll also say that I realize this is at lunchtime, and I thank you for, taking time out of a busy day to do this. And if you need to eat, please feel free to go ahead and do that. When we get to the practice, maybe if you're still eating, you can put your food aside. And we'll actually talk about some, mindful eating techniques too. But if you need to eat, please go right ahead. If you need to do whatever you need to do to make yourself comfortable and take care of yourself, that's really what it's all about. So the first thing, what I'd like to do is a pause. And so just as a couple of minute practice, just sit comfortably. You can close your eyes for this if you want, but you don't have to. It's really up to you. So just sitting comfortably, closing your eyes if you like, just paying attention first to your body. And just simply notice your body. Just simply notice the position you're in, the posture. And feel free to adjust it a little bit. You might want to stretch out the back, or you might want to just shift to make yourself comfortable. And bring your awareness down to your feet and simply notice the contact your feet make with the ground. Great way to be grounded. Just notice your feet on the floor. And then scanning upwards, you might notice your body in the chair and just kind of letting the chair support you. Let your body sink in a little bit. You can loosen and relax some areas like the shoulders, for example, if you feel a little tension. So that's the first part of it. We just notice our body awareness. The second is your breath. So just notice your breath the way it is right now. You don't have to do anything with it. Just notice what it's like, the pace of it. Is it deep or is it shallow? Just notice your breath and feel the breath as it moves in and out of the body. Feel the sensations of your breathing. And then if you like, as a last step, bring the breath and the body together. So feel the body breathing. Feel your body as it sits here, breathing. And then to finish, to maybe take one last deep breath in and out, and you can open your eyes if you've had them closed. And that's just a quick pause. And like I said, we'll do that at the beginning of each class. It's kind of a way to get ourselves centered and grounded, to do what we can to let go of what came before now. You're busy, you've got lots going on at work, I'm sure, and other parts of your life. So we try to do that pause, and a pause you'll see is a very helpful way to do this in the midst of a really busy day. So we'll do that at the beginning of each class. All right, so here's a great quote. The secret of health for both mind and body is not to mourn for the past, nor worry about the future, but to live the present moment wisely and earnestly. And that was the Buddha who said that. So this class is not Buddhist training, but I love the quote. I think the quote is very relevant. The training is secular. It's really designed for the workplace, but it is also insight focused. It's what they call insight meditation, is what we'll be learning. And the idea with that simply is that as we learn to focus on our breath and our body, we also learn to focus on what's going on in our mind and our feelings. And so we begin to notice some of the patterns of our thoughts and feelings. And that's where the insight comes in, okay? And of course, it's a lot about staying in the present. So here's something by Jack Kornfield. He's a very well-known meditation instructor. Got lots of great stuff out there. So he says, when a Zen master was asked to describe the modern world, he answered, lost in thought. And think about it, that's kind of the way we are often, right? We often get lost in thought. Our minds wander, and especially in our work days, we can see much of the time at work is, we're strategizing, planning, focusing, we're worrying sometimes, we're regretting, we're trying to please others. We're basically being somewhere other than where we really are. And often what's going on right now is lost on us. We're so focused on future tasks, the next meeting to attend, the next project to complete, that we get lost in what's really right before us. So that's kind of the point of all of this, really. That's the point of what we're going to be doing in this class. So the point, Roberta points out, you don't see Jack's quote. No, I don't have the quote up there. That's just something that I was referring to. All right, so moving on, we do these pauses, and I really want to point out that this class is not like most other classes. It is 6 sessions. And I do ask you to do some kind of homework or home practice as we go through this, but we're not striving for perfection or a good grade. So really just simply relax and enjoy it. On the other hand, practice really does make a difference. And so you'll see, and I'll encourage you to do some practice on a daily schedule. And if you can't do it every day, shoot for what they would say is daily-ish. Maybe 5-6 days a week, but try to do something every day, and I'll get more specific about that. But, it's like any other skill. It's, learning to, play tennis or a musical instrument or something like that. We really need to learn the basics, and we need to practice. And when we think about what our mind is like, we really need to try to do the best we can with our mind, which is sort of like out of control sometimes. And so the practice, you'll see, really makes a difference. Now, as I mentioned before to some of you in the beginning, if you attend most of these classes, so in other words, 3 or 4 out of the 6, you can get Know Your Numbers credits. I believe it's $100. So if you're interested in that, what I need you to do, and if you could do this right now, just write in the chat if you want this credit, because I'm going to have to find a way to take attendance. So that's how I'll do it. Write in the chat your name and that you want that credit for the Know Your Numbers. And I'll keep track of that as we go. And we'll do that every class, okay? All right, excellent. I see some of you coming through. But anyway, the bottom line of what I was saying before is that it's not about getting a good grade. So you don't have to worry about grades, but it is about applying ourselves. And I have added some information into the curriculum on building healthy habits. And you'll see that a little bit later on in the class. All right, so let's go into what is mindfulness. You may have heard of Jon Kabat-Zinn. He's a well-known meditation and mindfulness instructor. He created what's called mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is an 8-session class. And this class is loosely based on that. I've abbreviated it. And so it's, it's really meant for the workplace. But his class is kind of considered the gold standard. But anyway, this is his definition, okay? Mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. So just breaking it down, paying attention. So we're really trying to increase our focus and concentration and awareness. On purpose means we have to do it deliberately. We have to have some intention, and I'll talk about intention in a moment. But that's so important. You have to figure out when's the best time and place for you to do these practices. How do you build it into a busy life? And I think these days it's even harder than ever. In the present moment, as I talked about before, is we're really trying to focus on the here and now. So often we get pulled into the past or sucked into the future. And so the practice becomes reconnecting with the present moment. And you'll see how this all kind of helps. The final part of it is to do this all in a non-judgmental way. And you'll notice as we begin to pay more attention inwardly, that we notice that we have more opinions and commentary, and we make evaluations and judgments about people and things and what's going on in the world. I mean, especially in this past year. I mean, who doesn't have an opinion about COVID or about the CDC or about Anthony Fauci or any of that kind of stuff, right? I mean, we have been kind of jerked around for the past couple of years. So the non-judgmental part is really important. And I don't expect you to just simply be non-judgmental, but the first step of it is to simply notice when we are having judgments or opinions about things. Okay, that's all I want you to do. And you'll see how that works in the meditation as well. Here's another definition by Dan Harris. He is a former ABC News anchor and author of these 2 books here, 10% Happier and Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics, both good books. But this is his definition. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. And that's kind of what happens. You know, we can easily get carried away by what's going on in our heads without even realizing it. Another part of all definitions is this idea of presence of heart, open-heartedness, or kindfulness. And that's really important too, because we often also find ourselves making judgments about ourselves and being, kind of critical and harsh about ourselves. So that's the other part of it. I really want you to when you notice that, is to give yourself a break. Don't be too hard on yourself, okay? That's so important. So I asked you in the beginning when I sent the original emails out, what made you sign up for this class? You know, what's a word or two? And if you want to share in the chat why you decided to pick the class, you know, here are some good reasons. You know, as I put down this list here, I also gave you that great article. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but the article on the mindfulness of, or rather the science of mindfulness. And it had the 11 research-backed ways that mindfulness can help. And it went into things like, you know, helping with our mood and anxiety and depression and stress, even helping with physical kinds of things, our immunity, heart health, our sleep. It can even help perhaps with the slowing down the rate of cognitive decline. I mean, that's like, who wouldn't want that? It can help us with mental clarity, focus, and compassion. So these have all been studied. Mindfulness studies and research have exploded in the past 20 or 30 years. So there's a lot out there. So what's your intention? And so I'm asking you now, and I see a bunch of you are putting some things in the chat. These are really important kinds of things to think about overall what your intention is. But even as we do specific daily meditations, you might want to think about what's your intention for today. You might notice, oh, well, I'm kind of like really scattered today, and so I really want to focus, or I'm really tense today, so I really want to relax, whatever it is. So there's some great things. You can all look at these coming through on the chat, and you'll see there's probably a lot of common themes. Thank you for putting those in. We all have a lot of great intentions here. Just scanning through some of those, cover a lot of the same, rather things that I've been putting in there. Lots of great intentions. So when I thought of this class, I thought of, well, you know, New Year's resolutions, and New Year's resolutions are often broken, right? Most people kind of go into it. That was the other reason why I really wanted to put in some ways to strengthen your habit formation. And having this intention, well, that's just a starting point, right? We really need to figure out ways, and I see a couple of those, building this into my daily routine. That's really I think what most people have struggled a bit in taking the classes. They're finding ways to weave it and integrate it into your life so that it becomes a habit, so that you don't have to think about it, and it becomes something that's, you know, really kind of second nature, almost like learning to drive a stick shift car. You know, when you do that and you finally get it, you know, it becomes second nature. It's the same thing with this. Great stuff. Thank you all for putting those in there. All right, so the other thing I want to mention is I asked you to do that perceived stress scale. And many of you did that. I think we got about 30 or 40 come in. So if you haven't done that, please send me your score. It's a great way for me to evaluate the group average. That's what I do, is I create a group average at the beginning, and then I compare it at the end of the class. And hopefully we'll see a positive difference. And for yourself, I want you to see what difference it makes, not only on your stress level, but maybe whatever that intention was that you have for taking the class, maybe checking in with yourself midway through and at the end of the class. And that's a great way to evaluate for yourself how things are going. Here are some other words, just kind of things that I've come up with to think about. So often we're alert at work, but we're also stressed. So this idea of being alert and relaxed, or relaxed attentiveness, great way to be, right? Fitness for the brain. Here's a bunch of other things: being, not doing, engaged in the moment, thinking clearly, state of flow, you know, being totally immersed and in the zone, in a state of flow. Getting out of autopilot, that's a biggie, and returning to focus. Yes, we've got a question. I'm a late registrant. May I email you a copy? Yes, yes, yes. I can send that out again if you need that. Just let me know. All right, so here also, I'm going to send these slides out after the class, and I'm also going to send out the link to the recording. So if you come late or if you have to leave early or you miss a class, you can catch up. I'm not going to show these now, but these are links to brief videos. They're like 2 to 4 minutes. And if you want to take a look at any of these, you can do that at your own convenience. I have some other things for you to look at too that I will show you towards the end. All right, so this brings us to our first meditation, which is really simply sitting in a comfortable position and focusing on our breathing. And you'll see part of the instruction will be that when we notice we've gotten lost in thought, to simply return to the breath, return to the feeling of the breath. Now, if you've never done this before, just relax. It's really easy. You can't mess it up. Sharon Salzberg, another famous instructor, says, if you can breathe, you can meditate. So all you have to do is follow along with my instructions. And in the beginning, I'm going to actually also give you a couple of ways to sit and be comfortable and to just, follow along with the instructions. I think this will probably take about 7 to 9 minutes, somewheres in there. I'm going to add some information in about distraction and using our senses. So that's all relatively new material. So the first thing to do is just to get into a position that's really comfortable. So I'm assuming most of you are sitting. You could do this on a cushion on the floor. You could, cross your legs and do the lotus position, but you don't have to. I mean, for me, that's difficult for me. So I sit in a chair, and you could even do this standing if that's more comfortable for you. It may be because of a back issue or something of that nature. But so just finding a position that's right for you, and take a moment to adjust your posture. You want your back to be relatively straight and upright, but you don't want to be uncomfortable either. So finding a position where you can be balanced and relaxed at the same time. So upright, but not uptight, comfortable and relaxed as you sit. You can be leaning back against the chair if you like, or you can be just sitting up, hands resting comfortably in your lap or on your thighs. Feet flat on the floor is usually a good idea. And as we come to this position, you can close your eyes. Now, some people might feel it's more comfortable to not close your eyes completely, and that's perfectly fine. So if you'd rather keep them slightly open, keep sort of a soft, unfocused gaze down in front of you. So either that or closed completely. And simply notice your position right now as you sit and settle into stillness. And we're going to begin with 3 nice, long, deep breaths, letting go of any tension that you can as we do this. So filling the lungs on the in-breath, long, slow out-breath, letting all the air out. Let the out-breath be longer than the in-breath. In and out. One last time. Filling the lungs. Feel that sense of rising and filling. Emptying the lungs, kind of a sense of letting go and relaxing and releasing. And then just let your body breathe naturally again. And feel the weight of your body on the chair or wherever you're sitting. the feeling of pressure or warmth where your bottom contacts the seat. Feel the places of contact where your hands rest on your legs or in your lap or touch each other. Where your feet contact the floor on the ground. Let yourself also be aware of the feeling of your clothing as it touches your skin. Maybe even noticing the air as it touches your face. Opening the senses. Now let your awareness take in the play of images and light at the eyelids. You might notice a flickering of light and dark or shapes. And take a moment to attend to noticing with relaxed, receptive awareness. Feel your breath and sense the space around you. You might discover what it's like to smell and receive any odors that are present where you are. Let your awareness open to sounds around you. Often there are sounds in the environment and we can't have a totally quiet place. It helps sometimes, but if there are sounds in the background, just notice sounds and receive the symphony of sounds and let them wash through you. Now with the same receptivity, come back to the sense of the sensations and aliveness in your body. Bring awareness to your hands, feeling the sensations there. To the soles of your feet. Inside your chest. In the heart area. The head and the face. Invite your awareness to fill your whole body and sense your physical form as a field of changing sensations. There may be tingling or vibration, heat or coolness, hard or soft, tight or flowing. Now, amidst this field of sensations, notice your breath. And just feel the natural inflow and outflow of each breath. And if you can feel where you really notice the breath most directly, it might be at the nostrils as the air goes in and out. It might be at the chest, expansion and rising and contraction and falling of the chest and the ribs. Or it might be at the belly as you notice the belly stretching and relaxing as you breathe. Wherever you notice the breath, just let your attention rest there. And just give yourself permission to just simply breathe and rest on the waves of your breathing. Now, what will happen, and it's probably happened already several times, is that you'll notice your attention has been pulled away, even hijacked, and you become lost in thought or distracted by something, and your attention is pulled away from the breath. This is entirely the way it should be, so don't worry about that. When you notice that, though, acknowledge it Let it go and bring your focus gently but directly back to your breathing. Reconnecting with the breath. Reconnecting with the here and now through the breath. And that's the basic practice. We use the breath as an anchor to the present moment. Just feeling the breath one by one, remembering to come back whenever you notice you are gone. And little by little, you can improve your ability to stay focused. And don't expect it to happen all at once. Just try to be patient and persistent. And don't worry about how often this may happen. Just stay steady, returning to this breath. And try to remain relaxed and spacious, even as you're paying focused attention to the experience of breathing. If you notice that your body has gotten a little tense again, just try to relax it. And before we close, just notice what this feels like to just sit and do nothing on purpose, to just have this internal focus of attention. What's it like? There's no right or wrong answer. Just notice what it's like for you to sit and be still and quiet. And make note of that. And as we're ready to finish this meditation, consider what you want to focus on in the next period outside of meditation. Maybe a work project or an important conversation or a task that you need to do. And see if you can bring this focused attention, this quality of awareness with you to those next activities of your day. And in a moment, I'll ring a gong, and that'll be the end of the meditation. So allow your eyes to open if they've been closed. And reconnect with the room around you, and maybe take a moment to stretch and move a little bit. You've been sitting still. Do whatever feels right for your body, right? And as I said, just take a moment to notice what that feels like. You probably feel different than you did when you entered the class. And I don't really have the ability to get your feedback. I mean, I'd love to hear each and every one of you what that was like. But that's why I've asked you to pick a buddy. So take note of what that experience was like. And when you connect with your buddy, you can share that a little bit, share some of the insights. Now, many of you have already chosen a buddy. Many of you have not. So I'm in the process of pairing you up if you haven't, and I'll send that out after the class. And you can simply take a moment or two to connect with your mindfulness buddy and kind of compare notes as to how that was. All right, so I hope that was relaxing, but may not have been relaxing. I hope you didn't fall asleep, but if you did fall asleep, that's okay too. As you see, there's really no right or wrong, but you also may have noticed some of those judgments surfacing that I talked about before. You may have thought to yourself, oh, I can't do this, or I'm feeling really restless or bored or sleepy or whatever it was. Noticing that is perfectly fine, and being aware of that kind of is what it's all about. The trick is not to be harsh with yourself. So if you notice kind of a harsh internal voice about those things, as I said, give yourself a break. Don't worry about that. Just keep practicing. Be patient and kind with yourself. So a quick lesson about autopilot. So autopilot is, it's simply the idea of when we say, for example, you're driving somewhere, and we can drive for miles and be on autopilot without really being aware of what we're doing and how we got there. We get to the final destination and it's like, you can't even remember. That's our minds on autopilot. And what happens, and the problem with that, is that when our mind wanders, they've actually found this in studies, that when our minds wander, we're really not in a happy place. It's often we're ruminating, we're obsessing, we're thinking about things that are troubling to us. And so it's this idea of being aware of when our minds are wandering. And when we're on autopilot, we're more likely to have our buttons pressed. You know what I mean? It's like when someone pushes our buttons, that's when we're on autopilot. We're not really aware, and it brings up those old conditioned patterns of thought. And that's kind of what happens on autopilot. So autopilot does kind of get us into trouble sometimes. So just being aware of that, coming back, that's essentially what we did in the meditation, realizing that when we're kind of time traveling or our mind wandering, we come back to the anchor of the breath. And there's lots of anchors. We could come back to the anchor of our body. As we started with our body in the chair and our feet on the floor, that's another anchor. Or even sounds, or the feeling of our hands, that can be another anchor. All right, so the other thing that, just to bring up, is that when we're doing meditation and we're being more mindful, we're moving out of the doing mode, which we're in, pretty much 100% of the time, into simply being. And that's really a kind of a nice place to be, if we can allow ourselves to relax and just be and be still. That's why I wanted you to take note of what that was like. Moving from doing all the things that we've got to do, letting them go for a few minutes and just be. It's really a nice spot to be in. Now, the other thing that I want to bring up is the attitude that we bring to this. And that's really what a lot of this is about. It's our attitudes about how we respond to stress, for example. So the attitude to approach meditation is of being open and one of discovery. So not expecting, try to let go of those expectations and just being aware of what's showing up in the moment. We're not trying to prove something or improve ourselves. We're just trying to see how things are and how we're kind of filtering those kinds of things. And this is a great link. If you have time, you might want to watch some of these. But these are the 9 attitudes of mindfulness by Jon Kabat-Zinn. As you can see, beginner's mind, non-judging, acceptance, letting go, trust, non-striving, patience, big one, really important one, generosity, and gratitude. So those are all brief 2 to 3 minute videos. And so if you watch all of them, it's about a half an hour, but you might want to take a look at those when you get a chance. This is kind of what we're looking to do. Okay, I love this cartoon. You've probably seen it before if you've been in one of my classes, but typically we walk around, even on a lovely day, if we're outside trying to enjoy nature, and on autopilot, we have all the stresses and strains and worries that are going on. It's estimated we have about 150 open files in our mind at any given point in time. When we start to practice mindfulness and we come off of autopilot, we return to presence, we can be more like the dog. So we want to be the dog. The dog just is in the moment, noticing what's in front of them, not worrying about all that other stuff. Another way to say it is, this is a quote by Sharon Salzberg: once we see clearly what's going on in the moment, we can choose to act on what we're seeing. And the problem is if we allow autopilot to clutter up our minds like this, we can't see clearly. But if we let those things settle through our meditation practice and our mindfulness, we can see a lot more clearly because those things are not in the way. Make sense? I hope it does. Okay, so I'm going to pause here. In a moment, I'm going to introduce some of the daily practices. I am going to open up the chat at this point. Any questions at this point that you have about anything that I've said so far, anything that I can clarify? Somebody asked, can I be the cat? Yes, you can be the cat. I have another video, or rather a slide that I'll show next week with some cat yoga. So if you're a cat person, you can most definitely be a cat. Any questions at all? Just put them in the chat if you do. And by the way, if you have a question in between class, please feel free to reach out to me. I don't mind that. If you want to send me an email, I'm happy to answer or clarify something. Okay, so let's move on and kind of show you some of the daily practices. This is where the rubber meets the road, really. So the formal practice, like the meditation that we did, and what I would recommend is that you try to find, 7 to 10 minutes every day. And I'm going to show you a link in a moment too. But I think the link takes you to our meditation page on our site. And the sitting meditation is probably 7 or 8 minutes. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is the sitting meditation once a day. And this is where the hard part comes in, to try to carve out that time. And if you want to use something else, there's apps and there's lots on YouTube and there's lots of other sources for these. Feel free to do that. But set aside the time and find out what works for you. Maybe it's at the beginning of the day. Maybe it's at the end of the day. Maybe it's at your lunch break. But kind of experiment and find out what really works for you. And I'm going to give you a couple of tips also on trying to build that habit in just a couple of slides here. The other part of practice is the everyday informal mindfulness. And what that simply means is to stop and pause, to be aware. You might even ask yourself, what am I aware of right now? Pull yourself off of autopilot. Maybe envision that stop sign, just stop. That's actually a practice that we're going to do in a couple of sessions. And the everyday activities, this is the informal practice. I want you to pay attention to these routine activities. Hand washing is a great example. So when you're washing your hands, just wash your hands. What you're going to notice is your mind wanders. It's thinking about all those other things that are going on. But that's a great opportunity to simply stop and pause and pay attention to the feeling of yourself washing your hands. The feeling of the water, the smell of the soap, the sound of it, the temperature, right? All those things, using your senses, as we kind of did in the meditation, but in an informal way, as you're doing all these things. Now, you can do a different thing every day. The next day, you could pay attention to how you brush your teeth, and maybe brush your teeth with your non-dominant hand, or doing something with the laundry, or maybe making them with your favorite person a mindful hug, and noticing what that really feels like. Walking the dog, putting your seatbelt on in the car. All these things that we do on a routine basis, you can bring mindful awareness to all of them. So that's the other part of it. 3 breaths for a pause is another practice that you'll see. You can also do some mindful eating. That's actually a link when you get the slides. You can link into that if you want to try that. But here's the first healthy habit tip. So this is from, his name is James Clear. He wrote the book Atomic Habits. So many people think they lack motivation when what they really lack is clarity. So here's a sentence for you to think about, and I want you all to fill in this sentence. And it is, I will, and here's an example, a couple of examples. I will make a green smoothie at 7 o'clock in my kitchen. So it's really that specificity. I will stretch at 9 p.m. in the morning, in my bedroom rather. Here's a couple of meditation ones. I will meditate at 7 a.m. after my morning coffee. Or I will do my informal practice of brushing my teeth in the morning. So you see, this I want you to think about, and this is another thing that you can share with your buddy. What's your statement here? When are you going to do it? And you can change this up. You can try different times as you go through the week. But I want you to, really write it down and be very clear about it. Now, the second one is the 2-minute rule. So there are going to be many days when you feel like you just don't have time to do 7, 8, 10 minutes of practice. I get that. But those are the days when you really need to do the practice. So even if you can just do 2 minutes, a 2-minute check-in, you don't have to do a formal exercise, although I think that's better. But if you can just do 2 minutes of feeling your posture, checking in with yourself, noticing what's going on in your senses. What do you smell? What do you hear? What do you see? Feeling your breath, doing a couple of deep, mindful breaths. That's all you have to do. And what you might notice is when you take that 2 minutes, you might notice, no, maybe I'm enjoying this and I'll take a few more. Maybe you end up doing 5, 6 minutes. But the point is, it's better to do practice every day if possible. It's more about the frequency in the beginning to 1, establish the habit, and to 2, to really get the benefits of your mindfulness practice. Now, here are a couple of other ones that you can do at work. There's lots of ways that we can remind ourselves, and that's kind of the trick. Linking some of these practices to these things that you do already every day. All right? We all do these things. So taking some time to link mindful awareness with these practices. All right, so here's the homework assignment, building a practice of your own day by day. Want you to try the formal sitting meditation 6 days so you can take a day off. And here's the link that'll take you to our page, or you can use another one if you like. I want you to do informal practice every day. And most people find this pretty easy to do. But you do have to make the intention to do this. So that's that mindful awareness of routine activities. And then each week, I'm also going to have some reading and videos for you. Now, if you don't have time, if you're absolutely way too busy and you just can't do this, I would say the practice is the most important thing. But if you have the time, and there's more up front, I'm giving you a lot here. But there's a couple of great articles, one by Deepak Chopra, one by Jon Kabat-Zinn. There's a great special that Anderson Cooper did on 60 Minutes a few years ago. Great little video on Joshua Bell, famous violin player, playing and nobody notices. And then this is a fun little video on YouTube too. So if you have time, do that. And then the other thing, which because we are a very large class, we have over 100 people right here on the Zoom, I'm going to ask you to check in with your buddy. And there's also going to be a log when I send out the email with the slides. Each week you'll have a log, and I want you to record what you did for the formal practice, what you did for the informal practice, and maybe a word or two or a phrase or a sentence about what that experience was like for you. Was it difficult, challenging? Did you find it easy, relaxing? Did you find your mind was really wandering, or you were uncomfortable, or whatever it was? And that's the kind of thing that you can share with your buddy. Just check in with your buddy, maybe daily if you can, or 2-3 times over the week, whatever best suits you. You can, what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect you by email, but if you want to share your phone numbers and text, you could do that. So whatever's best for you, or even a phone call, you could, you could even, meet in person. That would be a novel way, right? But check in with your buddy. I think this is the other huge part of the practice that will be helpful to you. And it's the part that, when we used to do classes in person before COVID, when we started doing them on Zoom, you had that classroom connection. Well, we don't have that so much anymore. So I want you to check in with your buddy. If you want to have several buddies, or you want to have somebody at home, in your family to share this with. That's another great way that you can do this. So there's other resources. This link here goes to our meditation page. I have a bunch of things on YouTube now, so I've got all different playlists on there. You can use an app. These are very good apps. Insight Timer is a free app. Healthy Minds is another free app. 10% Happier is excellent, really good stuff. They do have a charge for that after, I think it's a 7-day free trial, but all those you could use as well. And as you may know, we also have phone meditations. So if you want to join us on one of the live phone meditations, please do that. I hope you can. This number in the blue box are recorded meditations. So it's another way that you can listen to some meditations. So there's lots of ways that you can find the meditations. The trick is to make it work, okay? The trick is to do it for yourself and to begin building that daily habit. One of the last things I'll remind you of is to be kind to yourself. So this image of the Mona Lisa, bring a slight smile of kindness as you do these practices, especially if you're noticing some frustration or some difficulty. Just be kind to yourself, smile to yourself. That'll help. That's an important attitude. And then the final thing, I'll leave you with this quote, and then I'll let you go. And I will be on, by the way, once I close the class and stop the recording. I'm going to check those if you've marked down that you want credit for and I think a lot of you did. But I'll be on the Zoom if you have a follow-up question. So mindfulness is about being fully awake in our lives. It's about perceiving the exquisite vividness of each moment. And we also gain immediate access to our own powerful inner resources for insight, transformation, and healing. So with that, I want to say thank you very, very much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to start this class. And if you have any questions, just reach out to me. I hope you find it helpful. I hope that it's what you hope it would be, that you can build this healthy habit for yourself. And I'm just really glad that you're here joining me on your mindfulness journey.